Hello everyone, starting a timer again. I'm only making a couple of videos today. This is number 2 for the day, and I want to talk about what happened when divorce came. We sat and had long conversations, and she said some really mean things during those conversations. I'm sure I said a few mean things too. But what should you do once the word divorce is mentioned? Okay? Now, I'm, again, not an expert on divorce. I've only had one, and I didn't even want the one. I hope never to even experience it. But I was not prepared for it in the least bit. Emotionally, mentally, nothing. I'd spent the last 2 years, maybe 3, working my hiney off, trying to keep businesses open. We had started a daycare. That daycare lost $40,000 or $50,000 a year, along with the initial outlay of $150,000. These things happen. That's how starting some businesses are, and I knew it. And I didn't want to start the daycare, not at the scale that she wanted it started at. She did some of that behind my back, and I kind of had to accept it and roll with it. But anyhow, then COVID hit, and we were still losing money on the daycare. It was suck it up, buddy, and start working time. And I was already getting warned by my doctor that I was overworking myself pretty heavily, and I was going to start having emotional breakdowns and mental breakdowns. And I had all the signs of physical breakdowns from working too much. Then COVID hits, and it just intensifies. I mean, the first 3 months of COVID, I literally worked 18 hours a day for 3 months with only 2 days off in that period. And that was transitioning from an in-person meeting over to a virtual meeting. I run a business, basically a small private school, and we were having classrooms at the time COVID hit. And our biggest class holds 150 people. Our smallest holds 30, and we had 4 classrooms. We were running 700-800 students a day through that business, a lot of students, okay? We're in College Station where Texas A&M University is, one of the larger universities in the country. And COVID hit, and that went down to 3 students a day, and then it went down to 1, and then it went down to none, okay? Through the first semester of COVID, I had 2 students coming through there weekly. So my income dropped dramatically. The problem with virtual teaching is, we went through a couple of different processes of finding a video host. YouTube wouldn't work because YouTube doesn't allow pay-per videos. We went with video streaming provider for a little while, but it was too awkward, too messy, and too unreliable. And then the cost of it went through the roof quickly. Then we switched over to Vimeo. Venmo's money. Vimeo, we switched over to Vimeo. $1,000 up front, and then you have unlimited streaming according to their terms of service. So we did that. And then that's when the cheating started. Students would buy one video and then share their login with 30 other students. We could tell because we would have X number of sales and Y number of views, and the number of views always greatly exceeded the sales. So they were sharing. It's what students do. College students are bad that way. They aren't quite grown up. They still don't understand that they're harming someone greatly financially when they do that. So it was an issue, and we fought that issue for over a year. So with all that going on, I was barely making any money once the summer of COVID was over. The summer of COVID, last summer, I did spend 10 days in the hospital with COVID. I spent a week, almost a month sick before I got COVID, and a month and a half sick after I got COVID, with complications from COVID. I had pneumonia. I never say that word right. Numerous times. Before COVID, I had a really nasty bacterial infection. Most of that was due to overworking myself. I'm getting bit by mosquitoes. I live in South Texas, and mosquitoes are, people around here swear can carry away small kids. And I can tell I'm getting bit. Anyhow, having said all that, that put a lot of strain on it. Physically, I couldn't work hardly anymore. I was getting extremely burned out. I'm still kind of there. I'm not going to lie. And then this divorce gets dumped on me, and I'm mentally shut down. Just out. I would go to work, come back from work, and close myself in a bedroom. The master bedroom became my domain, and I would just close myself in there, and I would just leave to get food. Had a bathroom, had a TV, had basically a small apartment just without the kitchen. And that's basically where I lived and stayed. The kids would come visit me in there. I wouldn't come out to visit them. Yeah. And this went on for 4 or 5 months. No, 2 months. 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. We went that way. Now, during this time period, while I was doing this, I did do some research on what I should do during a divorce. One of the things that kept coming across over and over again is never leave the house. Don't move out of the house. The moment you move out of the house, you don't get it back. You don't step back inside it. You don't get anything. Your possessions become hers. Whole big list of things that go wrong. Plus, she had seized control of almost all the money we had. She just pulled it out of an account and then filed for divorce. And that put me in a financial position where I couldn't do anything. I wasn't earning money. I was earning just like $1,000 over my office rent each month, which doesn't cover anything, okay? Not what I used to. My income was still way off. My income's off right now this year, but not by much over pre-COVID. Because unfortunately, I live in Texas, and we've thrown away almost all the COVID restrictions. And no one's complying with the ones that are being thrown at us now, which I'm thankful for. I mean, I do come across people wearing masks, but it's not common. You go to the grocery store, you only see about 10-20% of people wearing masks. And this video is only going to have a day or two delay between when I make it and I put it up, so you'll know the time frame on it. Anyhow, stating all this, one of the things I learned was don't leave the house. I didn't. I ended up with a house in the divorce settlement. Second thing is financial records. Get your financial records straight and keep them that way. Never did, and that was a big mistake because it cost me a lot of money in the long run. We had a lot of debts between the two of us, and I ended up absorbing an awful lot of those debts. The only way I could have justified giving her the debts would have been able to prove that she had her hand in spending a lot of that money. She had her hand in spending the money. I could show that checks came out of those accounts with her signature on it, and that she was using it to run her business and pay her personal stuff with. But my records weren't good enough for court. In order to get them good enough for court, I was going to have to spend $30,000 or $40,000 with a forensic accountant to get everything straightened up correctly. So yeah, that cost me. It cost me a lot. So keep your finances straight. Because believe it or not, money is going to be a major issue in a divorce. A major issue. Custody of the children. I unfortunately live in Texas where they don't frown upon men having children. But she fought me having 50-50 custody. And my attorney was like, you can get it, but we're going to spend an awful lot of time in court to get it. That's the other thing. I'm kind of combining this with something else. Spend your money on a good attorney. Do not get a credit attorney. I got one of the best attorneys in town. That also saved me a lot of hassle. One of the reasons why I got the house is that I almost completely owned my house when we got married. We used that for a down payment on a second house, and that rolled into this house. All that money before I got married from that first house was still solely mine in Texas. I don't know what it's like in other states, but here it was solely mine. So any equity in this house, huge portion of it was mine. So it made the value of the house almost worthless on her part. So she left me the house. She also paid me X number of dollars for the business we started up, because I could prove that I had expended a lot of money, time, and effort from my business to get her started. But if I had better financial records, she would have had to give me a lot more money for that business. So make sure you have your financial records good. Make sure you got a good attorney. Don't leave the house. Children, child support. Be aware you will pay child support. With 3 kids, my child support isn't cheap. Okay? And I knew it wouldn't be. I make a decent amount of money, so my child support isn't going to be cheap. So be aware of those things when you're getting a divorce if you're male. If you're female, you're going to want those things. Alimony. Texas doesn't have alimony. She was left with a business that easily could support her. So I wasn't worried about alimony in the least bit because she was getting a business, a fully functional business that earns enough money to pay for her. So there was no worries there. She's fine financially. Well, she's more than fine financially. She got a whole bunch of the money she took. She didn't have to return all of it. Again, children, if you want more than half custody and your person who's divorcing you doesn't want it and you're male, you're going to fight tooth and nail for it. I did get more than half custody, but barely. I do get them every first, third, and fifth weekends. And I don't get them just Friday and Saturday, and parts of Friday evening through Sunday. I get them Thursday evening through Monday morning, technically. I haven't been following through with that because I'm looking at my children. They're little, and getting them in bed and getting them for school once I come home from work late, sometimes on Sunday, isn't the best situation. So I've been returning them on Sundays so they have a consistent bedtime for school. When I have them on Thursday nights, I put them in bed early enough to get them up for school. And they're rarely tired and cranky in the mornings, and I do take them to school on Friday mornings. My work, I only work till about 6 p.m. on Thursdays, so it doesn't impact anything. 6:30, yeah. It doesn't really impact their school nights much. I get them, I get dinner, we get to play a little bit, and we put them in bed. But be careful of visitation times. If you're invested with your children, you might have to fight for them. If you're not invested with your children, well, walk away. But that's not my advice. My advice is they're your children. They look up to you for everything. And I'm going to run out of time on this one, so I might have to make a separate video. Yeah, I got about a minute left. I might make a separate video about the children, but those who have followed me on Facebook know how I feel about my children. Okay? And I know how my children feel about me. They really adore and appreciate me. Because when they're here, the TV isn't on. I mean, it comes on occasionally. I usually let them watch a little bit before bed. But for the most part, the TV is not turned on. They play. I interact with them. That's what they do when they're here. So if you have children, value your time with them. They're a gift. A big gift. Anything else I can think of about preparing for divorce? I mean, what you should do during divorce. Don't mess around. Get a good attorney. Do everything you're supposed to in a timely manner. The person I divorced did not. I remember during mediation, we sat for 2 hours while she got her bank records and printed them, which wasted a lot of my money and time. And honestly, that might have been by design. She was not prepared for anything, and I had all my records, all my ducks in a row, so to speak, everything lined up by that point. And I had gone through and gotten a third of the financial records in order the way I should have, like I should be doing all along. I have huge boxes of financial records now. So make sure you keep your finances in order, keep records of everything. I also started wearing a body cam around her because she was constantly threatening to call the police, and she would call the police. Yep, I'm almost out of time. She would call the police on a pretty regular basis. So wear a body cam, get one, and record everything. It's going to irritate the crap out of them, but they can't say, you did this, and it's your word against them, and they're the victim because you're the big male. So wearing a body cam and having video footage of everything calms it down and keeps things more workable. Now I gotta go, this video's long enough, and I'll come back with something pretty soon.